Communication 24, Resolution 18-13 establishes a real property tax stakeholders task force from Councilmember Margaret Willey dated December 3, 2012. Resolves that the real property tax stakeholders task force be established under the direction of the Finance Director to address those recommendations contained in the International Association of Assessing Officers report entitled Technical Assistance Report Evaluating Property Tax Policies and Administrative Practices in Hawaii County, as transmitted to the Hawaii County Council by communication number 641, 2010-12 council term on May 5th, 2012, postponed December 18, 2012, April 30th, 2013. Note there is a pending motion by Ms. Willey and duly seconded by Mr. Ilagan to recommend adoption of Resolution 18-13 and a pending motion made by Ms. Willey and duly seconded by Mr. Onishi to amend Resolution 18-13 with the contents of Communication 24.3 and Communication 24.1 from Council Member Valerie T. Poindexter dated January 8, 2013, transmitting a spreadsheet report of the Real Property Tax Ad Hoc Committee, and Communication 24.3 from Council Member Margaret Willey dated April 11, 2013, transmitting proposed amendments to Resolution number 18-13, and Communication 24.5 from Council Chair J. Yoshimoto dated April 29, 2013, transmitting letter from Finance Director Nancy Crawford dated April 2, 2013 regarding the Real Property Tax Work Group, and Communication 24.10 from Councilmember Margaret Willey dated May 9, 2013 transmitting proposed amendments to Resolution number 18-13, and Communication 24.11 from Councilmember Margaret Willey dated May 9, 2013 transmitting information regarding the membership of the Real Property Tax Stakeholders Task Force.
Okay, I guess the motion is still live on the floor, so any discussion, Councilmember Willey?
Okay, thank you, Chair Poindexter. Just for the public, to make it clear, the county raises its revenue first and foremost by way of property taxes. So this is a critical issue. There was an independent study and audit of the tax program with about 40 recommendations, and this is a follow-up to that. There was an original resolution proposing a real property tax stakeholders task force, and so what we're doing today is forming that task force. I was asked by the council to be sort of the lead on this with the administration, and I've been working with Nancy Crawford. Somehow, in general, both of us seem to have all of the same ideas, so I really felt very good about this process. And I think this is to appoint new members and sort of set a course, but I do have one, Stuart Hussey testified here, and the other two proposed members are in Hilo, and so I'd like them to come sit forward so I can introduce you. But I just want to say, following up from some of the comments, clearly we are all interested in what is the most reasonable, fair, and understandable tax program, and that's certainly what I'm all about. I do, and I think in terms of what will be covered, it does say the resolution including those recommendations. We're certainly, I don't feel limited by those recommendations. And others, we've talked, both Nancy and I agreed that we should have a core group. We sort of came up with the number 9, and 4 administrative, 2 from our council, and 3 public members. But we were both very much into having other administrative members, other members of the public, participate in a meaningful way. There were quite a few people who contacted me.
Ms. Willey?
Yeah.
Point of order. We're on Communication 24.3, which is the amendment that's live. the way I understand it. So we need to stick to that. And I also see that there's another competing communication, which is confusing.
Okay. Well, I don't feel that I'm off track, so,
But you are.
well, I don't think so. I don't think so. So, let me just, I have very little left to say overall, but I want to say that we're keeping this to a one-year period to really try to get something done on it. And now just I want to introduce the two other, or was one person there in Waimea?
Yes, Councilmember Willie. Mr. Bob Price is here in Waimea.
Okay, and then in Hilo, is that Jan Mahuna?
Yes.
Point of order, Ms. Willie?
Yeah, what would you
We're
like?
on 24.3, and there is no Jan Mahuna on 24.3.
Okay.
There is, the members would be Ms. Poindexter, Mr. Onishi, some of the administration, Janine Sunderland, Bob Price, and Stuart Huxley.
Okay,
So that's what we're in discussion on right now.
Okay, clarify that this is, I have an amendment to that, Jean Sunderland.
Okay.
Is there a particular procedural way you'd like me to handle this?
Yeah, in order to discuss that and to bring the individuals up to talk about them, I think we should be having discussion on the proper communication, which I see is
I don't want to discuss the first one without discussing the amendment. I'm not going to discuss the one we're not.
Maybe Mr. Chair, could you clarify?
Bring the,
Yeah, you have a couple of options, Ms. Willie. You can either amend your existing amendment, but you don't want to amend any more than that, because generally speaking, you can amend twice, otherwise it gets too confusing. Or you can withdraw your first one and substitute it in with the new one that you're going to do.
Okay.
Either one, whichever is easier for you.
So I'll withdraw and let me just get the numbers straight. Okay, so I'm withdrawing 24.3 and substituting, I want to make sure I'm right.
You can withdraw, but we need to make a motion, right, on the communication that you'd like to substitute with. And Mr. Onishi would also need to withdraw his second.
Yes, okay. So I'm then making a motion.
So, ma'am.
I'm withdrawing and making a motion to substitute 2411.
So in order to withdraw 24.3, what you're asking to do, Mr. Onishi will need to withdraw his second.
Second.
okay, so, okay, he withdrew his second, so she's withdrawing and just replacing it with her communication.
But we still need a motion.
Okay, wait. Can we just take a 3-minute recess?
Procedural
Thank you.
And he withdrew his second.
So then, all you do is just move the amendment.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Application 2410.
You're amending or replacing, you're amending Resolution 118?
Amending.
Okay. Amending Resolution 118-13 with communication.
2410.
Second.
The contents, okay.
And
Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Willie and seconded by Councilmember Kern. Thank you. And Councilmember Willie?
okay. So, and Nancy, do you and Dina want to come up here and come on up? And I'd like to just first thank Nancy and Dina for working with me on this and finally getting to this point. So I know that one of the public members needs to leave, so I would like to first sort of introduce the two others that were not here and did not testify during the public time. And Jan Mahuna, and tell a little bit about your background and why, just a moment of why you're interested in participating in the task force.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. My name is Jan Mahuna. I'm principal broker of Jan Mahuna Realtors. I've been in business over 30 years. I served on the ad hoc committee, and when I was asked to serve on this task force, I was happy to do so because I believe that our county is losing a lot of revenue as far as real property tax collections. I believe there's a lot of work that can be done to make things more fair and equitable to everyone. And I think if everybody was paying their fair share, because we have a lot of abuses in the ag exemptions and other exemptions, and I think if we worked on assessments, doing them correctly, bringing them up to date, and everybody was paying their fair share, as I've said to a couple council members, our mayor would be asking to lower our tax rates rather than raise them.
Okay, thank you, Jan. And Mr. Price?
Yes, good afternoon, council members. My name is Bob Price. I would like to serve on this committee. I've served on the ad hoc committee at that time, but I also bring 6 years of previous council experience and 8 years as an elected assessor experience with 30 years of realtor experiences. Plus, I did work 5 years in the county office in Kona before I retired. I also feel I have the time to serve now that I am retired. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, I remind you that Mr. Stuart Hussey, who's a certified general appraiser here in Hawaii, spoke during the public testimony time. The administrative members that I have here in this resolution are for Nancy Crawford, and just so the public knows who everybody is, Real Property Tax Administrator, Stanley Sitko, who's the Real Property Assistant Administrator, and Lisa Nahopi, who's the Assistant Real Property Tax Administrator, and Ryan Kanakaole, Corporation Counsel, Deputy Corporation Counsel, who has worked on tax matters. And Nancy is here, and Deanna is here, her assistant. And for council members, Dennis Onishi, head of District 3, and myself on council for District 9. So I'm the one that's volunteering from the council, as well as Mr. Onishi, and I think there's a certain balance here in terms of East Side, West Side, and all other ways, and get to work with my buddy. And I think that we're all committed to working very expeditiously, and again, I just want to say the words, we're looking for fairness and reasonableness, and also for me, simplicity, so things are understandable. And I just like, Nancy, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I'm Nancy Crawford, Director of Finance. I would say that we are very interested in moving forward with a real property tax task force, and in fact within our department have already started working on items. There was work ongoing even back during the time of the ad hoc committee. There was work ongoing during the time of the IAAO study, some of which is acknowledged there in the study, and more of which is acknowledged in the report of the ad hoc committee of things that either have been done or are in progress. We're continuing to move forward. We look forward to working with council on that. I testified previously that in the very beginning when this resolution first came out, that I wasn't sure it was necessary to name specific members of this committee, but I also understand Ms. Willie's position on that and the importance of it, so I know that that's where she is. I had also given some input in my communication on members for the committee, but I really feel like this is the council's resolution. We will support and work with the council as, in terms of what is established in this resolution. We do intend to bring in other people, as she had mentioned also, as we go along when we're working on ag, which is going to be our very first priority. We have a number of people who have indicated interest and that we want to have that will represent all different aspects of commercial agriculture, and some perhaps that are in non-commercial ag as well, since we have a non-commercial, non-dedicated program that's part of what we're going to be looking at. I think there are a lot of people who would like to be on this committee. There are probably several hundred people who would like to be on this committee, and unfortunately, to be effective, I think Ms. Willie and I were in agreement that to be effective, this needs to be, relatively small, 10 members or approximately, and so, as I appreciate the council taking action to complete this resolution and move it forward, because it will help us in moving forward. We want to move very quickly in the first areas in the hopes of implementing something that would be effective for the next tax year. And because some of these involve dedication programs where people have to make decisions about what tax classification they're going to be in or what dedication they're going to participate in, by fall, then we will be moving quickly in those particular areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And I just want to reinforce the point that we really want as many people's input as possible. And one thing I've been doing is when people have contacted me is I send out in an email a copy of that report, as well as the other, like the ad hoc committee's recommendations, and a letter there was from Nancy. So I send out all the information so people feel free to review it and give their input. So I just want to say to everyone that contacted me, we did pick 2 people that were already on the ad hoc committee as public members. We can move fast, along with Mr. Hussey and his really great deal of experience. So please, if people contact you, either do that or have them contact my office, and I'll get that information out to them, and so they feel in a position to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I'm excited to get this real property task force underway and gone, so I don't have to learn how to say it. It's very challenging to say. Secondly, Ms. Crawford, with this, the amendments to the resolution the way that it is, basically making it firm, here's the members that are involved in it. Does that give you folks the flexibility that you would want? Because I know that there's so many different classifications that you have to go through, and originally I was thinking that we would obviously have our set council members, we'd have the finance department there, we'd have real property tax, and some legal corporation counsel there. But I also thought we might have some flexibility or some fluidness as it went through to maybe bring in folks that were more specific in agriculture, maybe more specific in commercial, maybe more specific in residential. So as we're but looking at each of these different classifications, we were able to have the people with the most knowledge there to look at each one of those. That's my concern with naming each person, is that doesn't give us the flexibility. But what's your feeling on that, Ms. Crawford?
Well, I guess we certainly respect the request and the resolution that comes from this council, and we'll take that into account as we move forward. I do not feel that that's going to limit me in providing other participation as we think it is appropriate. And so and again, we expect this to be a collaborative process. My criteria for who should be on this committee is that they should be thoughtful, they should be open-minded, and they should be collaborative. This is not, I don't view this as a situation, I hope it does not become a committee where we meet and look at alternatives and we vote. And I want this to be a committee where we can all come to agreement. I mean, maybe we will not always agree, but the point is to be collaborative and put out one or more recommendations. Ultimately, the council is going to make a choice, and so we will. That doesn't mean we're going to bring forward only one option. That may be a recommendation, or we may be split on recommendations, and ultimately you all are going to take a look at all of those recommendations anyway. And that is certainly my commitment. I think there was some concern about what my personal position might be on anything that comes out here. I may feel free to express my personal opinion, but we will absolutely share with you what came from the committee, and I hope that all of that is in agreement, basically, with some good ideas or good choices for you. So in terms of am I going to feel limited by this? I quite honestly, no. And I also feel like, we have a time limit in here, but I see this as ongoing. I'm not sure we're going to have the opportunity to go through all of the full realm of Chapter 19 and the other items that were addressed in the IAAO study, even in a 2-year period. I see this as an ongoing process of adjustment and hopefully, thoughtful consideration that takes into effect consequences that we might not otherwise consider.
Thank you. Okay. Like I said, I look forward to getting this going. I really appreciate the members of the public that are willing to participate in this. I'm also very happy to see that we have an appraiser that I don't know personally, but know of, and has been around a while and is good, broad in his scope and field. And I also want to thank Mr. Onishi and Ms. Willie for being willing to serve on this. This is going to be a lot of work. So thank you. I'm interested to hear what my other colleagues have to say and make a decision. With that, I yield.
Okay, thank you. Any further communication? Councilmember Onishi?
Yeah, well, I had the same concerns as Mr. Kern about, because we have 9 different categories, right? And so, to me, it's a variety of different. So, I wanted to ask Ms. Willie on how did you make your selections for the 3 public people?
Based on communications from people who inquired and suggestions, and talking to Nancy. We met on several occasions, and ultimately these 2 are 2 of the 3 public members, which would, I think, facilitate moving along as quickly as possible, and as well as Stuart. One person, Marie, who did speak today, contacted me well after we had sort of come down to making these decisions. And there have been others who have contacted me. Again, each time I'm trying to keep them included and not want anyone to feel they're not on this core group, that they don't have an avenue for input.
Well, yeah, because I've been contacted by a couple people that wanted to be also on this committee, and so I couldn't guarantee them, but I wanted to find out how we could do a selection, because to me there's like if we're going to do ag, and as Mr. Kern had mentioned, I think we should have realtors or people who are involved with the ag involved in that discussion, because to me that would be the more expertise. And then if we do hotel resorts, then we get someone else, another group. And as Ms. Crawford mentioned, I mean, there is like a deadline or a timeline, but to do all 9 categories with just the members we have, I don't think we'll be able to succeed in that.
Yeah, let me just say, I totally agree with you in terms of having that expertise. And I think our discussion was, let's sort of have a core group that is there all the time. And then as we take each of these areas, we work with those who are experts. There's certain people in agriculture that we discussed that we would want to bring forward. So it's sort of a two-layer. So I don't, and I think in terms of the 9, it was just we discussed 9, 11, whatever. We felt that that was a really good group, size group to work on consensus and to work with a larger group. So we're sort of 2 layers. So I think the people that you have come to you, as well as quite a few others that have come to me, is to give them the information. We'll get it to them. We are going to start with ag, so that's the first area, I would say, and to think about who might be interested on that. I don't want to hold this up, and let's reconsider, and maybe that's what, in other words, I feel my role was working with Nancy to come up with that formulation. Unless you're really unhappy with this and feel it's worth stopping.
Well, I'm just thinking that maybe we keep the core as with the administration, the council, and the staff. And then as each category comes up, then we bring in the expertise. So we don't list it here like as Mr. Kern mentioned, like now we're listening, so these people are going to have to be on it, right? Whereas now, like he's saying, we're going to have this core with the public, but then also when come like when ag, like we're going to start with ag first, then we're going to get other experts, so now this group going to get bigger again, you know, because we're going to be listening to these experts. So if we just keep the core within the administration, within property tax, the administrators and the council, and then each category comes up, then we select like 3 members.
Anyway, I disagree. This is what we've worked on.
So I understand, but I'm just saying that because if we, well, to me, if you keep it like how you have it now, and now we're going, like you said, we're going to do ag first, we're going to have to bring in experts, right, as you said earlier, right? So now, this 9 that we have here, I think, was it 9? 2, 4, yeah, 9, right?
9.
Now, with the experts that we're going to be bringing in, might come to 12, 15. We don't know, right? That number is correct?
Well, this is the core working group, so it's when we're trying to aim for consensus group, it's just what is the size, and to have, I think, really even in the last term,
right,
a discussion to have some public people on there, not just have it council and administration. So I, in a way, felt that decision had been made and was implementing that we would have 3 components, and then Nancy and I worked on, okay, how many for? She had maybe 6, and how do we work it? And we came to an agreement on this. So I'm just saying that's what I've done. If you all disagree, you know, I'm going to go along with whatever, but I think this is, for me, a good size, and it worked well. So I'm open. That's the best of my
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Are you?
Oh yeah. Well, she took a lot of my time.
Oh, okay. So,
I think maybe we should look this over. Maybe just have the core within, like the council, the administration, and like with finance department and with the administrators of the property tax. And then as each category, then we bring in those special people in there, and then we do the discussion. And this is my opinion. Thank you.
okay. Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. First of all, I think this task force is well-staffed. You've done a good job. And I understand the need to keep it not small, but relatively compact. No question about that. I do want to say something that has already been mentioned. I think Ms. Mahuna made it clear that fairness is an issue. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we all know where the majority of taxes are coming from, and we know the group that's paying the middle group, and we know who's paying the least. So fairness is something that I'm really looking forward to seeing coming out of this task force. With that said, I'd like to talk about bills that will be coming from the council that we would like the task force to take a look at. Not all the bills are going to fall into the first priority of your group, which is ag. But these bills are important that they not just sit there for months and months and months. We would like you to review them. At least, let me speak for myself. I would like you to review the bills. Some of them can actually come back to the council very quickly with recommendations, and I think that would be appropriate. I'm not asking you to speed through anything for the sake of just time. I'm asking you to take the bills that we send to you for review very seriously, that there are things that we would like you to look at and comment on and do your research on and send back. I believe you can do that along with setting your first priority as ag. So I did want to tell you that. I wanted to say it for the public. The other thing, this may not happen in the first year. However, I think there's another classification. I don't know if it came up. I don't remember out of the 40 if this issue came up, but maybe it could be added to your list. And that's, I personally think that we need something besides ag. I think we need a forestry and watershed zoning. And I'll come and testify in front of your task force about it. When I say forestry, I am not discussing the timber industry. I'm talking indigenous forest. Other sections of the country have such a zoning to protect their watersheds. They have large lots, like 20 acres and above. But anyway, I'll testify more on that when you have your meetings. But I hope you will take a look at that. I think it's vitally important that we protect our watersheds here. Thank you.
Councilmember Kanuha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also couldn't be happier that we're moving along with this task force. And I also had the same concerns about the diversity. But hearing from the members of the public here today, the volunteerism, and I'm really happy that you guys are volunteering for this. And I also agree with Ms. Willie that we need to have this, that core group, and I think for these three individuals to be part of that is also pretty critical, from my opinion. But we're ready to move along, and I'm glad we're pushing this forward. Let's get it done, and let's move on from there. And that's pretty much what I have to say. I support this right now, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Iligan? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Director Crawford for wanting to include other community members when you're talking about different categories, because that's key. It's not just the core group, it's also the other members. And I do want to expand and clarify what Councilmember Onishi mentioned, because it started to ring true about fairness. Here we have selected 3 individuals to be part of the core group, and to just have 6 core group that would include 2 council members, 2 finance individuals, and 2 corp counsel. That's the 6 main core group. And then where the community members are, the experts, that's where you invite them in. Because you guys mentioned about having a big committee to where you can't really get anything accomplished. Where when you have 6 core members, then adding more in that has, let's say we're talking about agriculture, then you're bringing in the experts from agriculture. You don't have 12 people. You're bringing in 4, that's 10. Instead of having a core group of 9, you add in 4, and you're already up to 13. So this way, it's the main core group the county core group, and then your community members depends on which category you're working on. That's my feel on what Councilmember Onishi mentioned, and I support him in that because I feel kind of unfair because there's other members from my community who wanted to be part of this 3 main core group, but they can't because you guys already chose the individuals. And if you make it so there's no 3 community members and you have a 6-member core group that includes 2 council members, 2 finance, and 2 corporation counsel, then this becomes fair when you're talking about each category. That's my opinion, but thank you so much for moving this forward, and you have my full support. If you need any help from my community, I'm here for you guys.
Councilmember Eoff?
Thank you. One thing, though, about the 3 community members, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you said 2 of them were on the original ad hoc committee that made recommendations?
That's correct.
So I think that's important, but I understand what Mr. Lagon and Mr. Onishi are saying, too. But I would suggest that we utilize this core group as set out in this resolution so that we can move forward, and I'm really hoping that this task force will accomplish its goals and our goals as we stated as we passed the real property tax bill last week, that we'll be able to reduce the property tax rate by the end of, or by this time next year. I'm really looking forward to that outcome. So thank you, and I'll support this.
Thank you. Councilmember Curran?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the more I think about it, it sounds like there will be the flexibility there. I think the core group has to have administration, council, and public. If the core group doesn't have that core public group, it's not going to have the transparency that I feel that we really need. And if they're coming through, I think the more I think about it, having that core group, and if we need to bring in that ag expert or whatever and make that number 10, but he or she is not necessarily part of that core group. It's utilizing that knowledge that they have for that discussion, but the core group of 9 is still making the decisions and going through the deliberation and discussion. So I support this. We just got to get moving forward. If we nitpick this too far, it'll never happen, and being that we have increased the budget, we need to have this moving as fast as possible. So I support that. I just trust that you guys, as you're going through this, if there's adjustments that need to be made, you'll do that. The flexibility is there, and really appreciate that. So I support this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If none, can I just make a brief statement? I do support this because I really feel that we need to move in this direction, and it's moving forward. And I trust that people like Ms. Mahuna, who has the background in real estate, because I look at the Pahoa area, and I also look at even in my District 1, which is mainly ag, and realizing, and I'm sure she's aware of that too, we've inherited, the homeowners there have inherited roads. So it's a lot of the older communities with, the homes are substandard. Besides, the roads are very substandard and are owned by the community. And it's no county funding even to maintain it. They maintain their own. Throughout the Hamakua Coast, you have that spread like in Puna. So it's important to have people like Ms. Mahuna on this task force who understands what's going on throughout our island as far as what kind of real estate is out there and what properties are out there, and understanding the values. And unfortunately, like in our a lot on the east side is a lot of substandard roads or roads in limbo. And so, I understand sometimes that West Hawaii feels that they bear the burden of the tax, but we got to look at what we have or we don't have actually in some of the areas out there. So I'm glad that we have people on the task force that have that background. So I am supporting it also. So any other discussion? Okay, so can we take a voice vote? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so Resolution 18-13 moves,
No, point of order.
yes.
Resolution 18-13 has now been amended with the contents of communication 24.10, so now the main motion of the 18-13 is on the floor.
So, so that moves forward as amended, Resolution 18-13. Are we voting on which, sorry, excuse me.
You need to vote on the main motion.
The amendment.
As amended.
Okay.
No.
So can we vote on, yes, Communication 24 as amended with Communication 2410, with the contents of 2410. So all those in favor?
We should check if there's any discussion on that.
Oh, any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, Councilmember Ford?
I want to make sure I'm voting on the right thing. We now have Resolution 18-13 as amended with the contents of Communication 24.10. That's what we're voting on, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so Resolution 1813 as amended with the contents of Communication 2410 moves forward to council with a positive recommendation. So now we go back to, go ahead.
Ask if we could, public members need not come back when it comes to council.
Do we have,
There's not really a point.
I don't think they have to come back, because this is not, we're not,
But just so they don't feel they have to come back.
yeah, so there is no reason for them to come back. So, okay, Ms. Willie was asking if the members have to come back, and they don't have to come back. It's
For the council.
yeah, for the council meeting. Okay? So now we move back to communication, 289.